Hey everybody, I am here to share a little bit about the 12 signs in a short presentation I'm calling Alphabet of the Signs, where I'm going to look at the qualities related to all 12 of them from a few different positions, zooming in more on the nature of their yin and yang elements as I'm preparing to look at something on Friday the 30th, both in person and online, called Duality in Unity, which is going to look at the different combinations of yin yang or masculine feminine energies that we can see in an infinite array of possibilities. I'm kind of decoding the planets first, which we looked at previously in another video, and now we're going to look at the signs for this one. So I will go ahead and share that and give you guys a look at things. All right, so this is the alphabet of the signs. If we were to think about those 12 signs, and they each have a symbol, which I'll use to reference them as letters of an alphabet, we are thinking about what those archetypes embody and signify in each of their individual cases from a variety of different angles together. So the first page here is looking at the element and modality of each sign, which is fairly standard, basic, fundamental information about each, along with a key word related to kind of what that sign does or could be said to be about in a gist. And there's more than one, of course, but starting with Aries over here. This first symbol is our first sign, Aries. It is a fire sign, and fire as an element is considered to be a yang or masculine element. And the cardinal sign being the first of its triad and the first of the fire signs, this is a cardinal sign, which is also kind of considered to be masculine in that it starts and initiates things. Real quick, before I get too far, just in general, fire and air are the yang masculine elements in a 4-element system, and then water and earth are considered the more yin or passive and feminine of the elements. And then when we think about the 3 modalities being cardinal, fixed, and mutable, cardinal is the starting one, is the charging forward, that kind of bursting forward is very active. That carries with it a very strong masculine yang quality. And then the second one of that, the fixed, which is like a holding, a sturdying, like a filled, saturated, kind of, anchored. That's very yin, feminine with our fixed quality. And then the mutable, the changeable, is very, there's a 2 polar, dual, binary kind of both quality to all the mutables. So with just this fire, earth, air, water, elemental mix, and cardinal fixed mutable, you can already see that each sign has kind of an overlap of 2 different masculine or feminine, quote unquote, qualities that are kind of joining. And sometimes it kind of doubles up and amplifies. Sometimes they are opposite and there's a blending or a merge. There's all of these different qualities. So overall, we're looking at various layers. And so again, with Aries, we've got a masculine fire and we've got a masculine cardinal. So it's very much overall, just in this page, a masculine sign. And it's about to begin, to start, to charge into things. Taurus is the second sign, and it is of earth nature, which in itself is yin and feminine. It's kind of solid like a rock. If like Aries is charging into something, movement, active, Taurus is sitting there, being, maybe attracting and accumulating passively. So there is this yin feminine quality to that. And then the fixed quality, the feminine nature in that, is a sense of holding our resources and kind of the ownership, the holding. And there's a sense of to develop that comes through Taurus. It's about developing that which we have. Air for Mercury is a yang or masculine element. And then it's a mutable sign, which is about, it's the most mutable sign, arguably, in the sense of being the symbol for 2. So it's all about 2s, dual, polar, both. So there's a little air masculine quality. It's moving. And then it's got the both quality of being mutable, changeable, back and forth between, it just came from a feminine fix and it's right in between a masculine yang cardinal. So it's both. and it's about learning. It's about the back and forth adjustments, toggling, analyzing, all of that. Cancer then is representative of our first water sign. Water is yin and feminine. Another way I think about the elements and why they are considered yin or yang. Fire is always flickering and moving, and air is constantly blowing or moving, whereas earth of its own will sit as a solid mass. And water will, without being, shaken or whatever, will find a solid, clear, flat level. So there's that passive quality to the water and the earth, which is where it gets its yin feminine connotation. But returning to the sign Cancer, so it's feminine, water, yin, but it's also cardinal, masculine. If you're familiar with tarot, cardinal signs match in some respect to like the kings of suits. And then we can see that the fixed signs match in a sense to the queens. Mutables are in a sense kind of like a knight. We could even say a knight page combo of sorts. But so that cardinal masculine quality that we think about, that we don't think about Cancer. Cancer is very feminine, the mother. The masculine quality there being like the quiet father king, the king of cups in a sense, to protect the family. So there's a hidden masculine in there. So we're analyzing these along the way. Fire, Leo. Leo is all about the kings. Fire is yang, masculine, but it's fixed. And fixed is a holding. It has a feminine quality. And this is where we think of like the Queen of Wands type of quality, if we were to blend into tarot world a little bit. But that fire yang masculine is overarchingly what we think about with fire, and in the sense of its element. And then Leo is this king energy, the same way that Cancer stands so much for the mother. And those archetypes have a lot to say about how it's represented overall. We'll see at the end. But Leo overall is about to create. It's our creative impulse, which is very fire. Virgo. Virgo is earth, which is a yin, feminine. And so it is, I kind of think of its earthy sense in this sense being responsive and adapting when things must adjust or, need to be for improvement or efficiency. And, so it's responding in a practical way to whatever's needed for change. And it is a mutable sign, which is about the ability to do both, to take action and wait, to, it's got the binary code to it, in that sense of being that earthy Virgo servant. We think about which with the inner self-focus on to improve. Libra, the air sign, makes it yang masculine. Air is about the mental component. There's a lot of to decide what is right, what is wrong, what is fair. The deciding factor of Libra is yang masculine. And cardinal, it is also an initiating sign, a starting sign, which carries with it a masculine quality, which we think of being a fit for air. But similarly to how we had that cardinal masculine quality with Cancer, which is a little unexpected, Libra is a softer sign. And so it's masculine in both respects, but we'll see why it has a feminine air to it, air, in a second too. But it is to relate. It's how we relate to others and interact. Scorpio, water, it makes it yin, feminine. And the fixed makes it very feminine. And just as there is a hidden reason why Libra has some femininity to it, there is some masculinity in Scorpio as well, with its theme of to transform. It's like a very deep well of water, a very deep, dense amassment of volume to the water in Scorpio. Fire, Sagittarius, makes it yang and masculine. And then the mutable quality, again, there's something about being adjustable, going both ways, being flexible. All the mutable signs express some sort of flexibility, familiarity with both ways. Where again, cardinal is active and moving, and fixed is kind of slow and holding. It's a hold, like yes and no, a go and stay. It's that kind of thing. And mutable kind of toggles and fills the spaces in between. And so Sagittarius is fire. is masculine, where it's, got this mutable, adjustable aim feature, where its drive is to understand. Capricorn and its earthy nature is very yin and feminine, like a rock. And then there is a cardinal masculine quality that does have a fit for this particular yin element. There's a slow and steady advancing, graduating, forward moving quality, even though it's slow, like a crystal forming to Capricorn, as it is to attain, to reach a goal, to accomplish. Aquarius, air sign, makes it yang and masculine. It's active. Sometimes it can be even radically explosive. But it's also got a fixed position, which is feminine. And the paradox for masculine and feminine in Aquarius is extremely apropos. There's a holding. It's also got some connotations with both Saturn and Uranus through planets, which also gives it that holding, solid, slow, and like radical, exciting, fast quality, the quickening. And so there's a little bit of both, with its motive of to elevate, to radically, upgrade. And then Pisces, our last sign, as a water sign, is very yin and feminine, like the ocean, and mutable, both. It's got, I could even say with Pisces, this mutable quality is it can be harsh and swallowing up things in just some mysterious way, but it's also a sense of just what is of everything. There's a relaxed quality with this motive, which is to surrender to, everything, the all. So that's the first little round of our 12 characters. So there's 12 signs, and their earth, air, fire, water element, which comes with it already established yang or yin association, and then a cardinal fixed mutable positioning. So you can think about those all being combined for those signs. The next layer to talk about would be what planet rules each of these signs. And the planets often have a more masculine or feminine, which is yang or yin, flavor to them also. And so with Aries, we start with its ruler ruled by Mars. And Mars is, it's the symbol that looks like, men are from Mars, women are from Venus, which, clues us into Venus being the planet associated with Taurus. So there's a clear planetary association to Aries that again gives it the masculine and again gives Venus the feminine. So there's that established planets. Mercury, as the ruler of Gemini, has a quality of both. It's kind of neutral. It's androgynous. So Mercury gives Gemini, through attribute of being its most associated planet, the ruler, a quality of being both as well. Mercurial means changeable, means, just both, binary, duality, polarity, all of those file together there. Cancer is ruled by the moon, and the moon has a strongly feminine quality, the same way that then Leo is ruled by the sun, and the sun has a strongly masculine quality. So those two signs, by virtue of their ruling and associated planet, establishes kind of a female mom home base, and then a sun king masculine home base that's very she and he. But there's also a way we'll look at some point how the those two positions fan out, and you can kind of see it here. On both sides it's Mercury, and then on both sides it's Venus, and then on both sides it's Mars. That it all fans out the rulerships from that sun and moon position there. Virgo then we're back to Mercury as the ruler, and it is both and neutral by virtue of that. What we could say at this point is that, Mercury Hermes moving has that masculine movement quality, and then Virgo is this earth sign, the maiden, this feminine, and so that's again where we see active earth, or it's one of the, out of those three earth signs, Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, I would wager we'd think about Virgo moving the most, adjusting the most, being active, but it has a both quality. Libra, Venus, that is a quality that makes Libra, a masculine air sign, also cardinal, a lot softer. It's ruled by Venus, which is very feminine by association. So there is a softer, more passive quality to Libra, when compared to maybe the other air signs or just other yang signs, other fire signs. Similarly, Scorpio is a water sign ruled by Mars and Pluto through extension. Mars extremely masculine. Pluto is kind of beyond the whole game of the masculine and feminine. It's kind of both neither. But the Mars warrior active component boiling the water of Scorpio adds a very masculine flair to a very feminine fixed water sign. So there's that paradox. Jupiter in Sagittarius. Jupiter is kind of both neutral kind of planet, kind of a soft masculine, same way that Saturn over here in Capricorn is kind of a both neutral planet as well, maybe a hard feminine. And so there's, a little bit of bothness to that idea, soft feminine and hard masc seem like they would fit in a double emphasized way. This combo that they really are gives them both a little bit of mutability, although Jupiter and Sagittarius as fire as an arrow has got a lot more of a yang masculine moving quality to it, whereas Saturn is very much a slow, steady, crystallizing, like the more something is slow and held, that is a more feminine. So there's a very feminine sense to Saturn and Capricorn, which is most well seen through the Kabbalistic tree of life when it is the head on the pillar of severity at Bina, if anyone knows what that is. But there is there's just it's a form of femininity that is just kind of slow, hard, finite, all of those things with Saturn, just in the sense that Jupiter, by virtue of going out and being a movement, has got more of a masculine in that sense. But there's some mutability in Jupiter with Sagittarius, just as there is some masculinity in Capricorn and Saturn through that authority at that position as the 10th sign and other attributes. So again, you're starting to get into the more abstract realm down here. And then finishing out with the most, I would say, Aquarius and Pisces. Those are really the places where the whole discussion of masculine and feminine energies gets excited and puts its thing down, flips it, and reverses it a lot. Because Aquarius with Saturn and Uranus is a combo of two planets that are like one all about being still and one about being shockingly, radically different. And so there's a lot of paradox, a hard set way and a shock and a radical difference. But that radical nature, that lightning energy, lightning in a bottle quality, and even these waves of the symbol of Aquarius, people often say are the waves of water being poured out by the water bear. It also is just jagged like electricity, which is very in the mix of its archetype, makes it very masculine with its ruling planet. Uranus is a masculine planet by virtue of that activity, even though it is by virtue also unusual and out of the box. And we'll look at how that impacts the sign later too. Pisces with Jupiter being a soft masculine already, and then Neptune being such a just purely kind of feminine energy of itself, the same way Uranus is really very masculine. It softens even more so. And so just the sheer super softness of Pisces has got a more feminine nature to it. So of these two transpersonal signs, which is also, we could say transsexual, but in the sense of transcending the idea of sex, Aquarius is the more masc and Pisces is the more femme, but then those labels are going to become a lot cloudier as we look at some other components. So looking at each sign as far as what does it do, how does it operate? This is the modus operandi of each of our planets. And so each one has a theme for the way that they function. So we're going to think about these as we're identifying each of these 12 symbols, letters of a language, characters of a caste, when we're thinking about who they are, what they're like, and their nature. Again, the first sign is always Aries. And so Aries is all about starting things. It's always the first sign, initiating things. It is the I'll go first, pioneer. It is pushing, it is charging, it is powering, it is leading. It's that raw energy battery that is like always going. It's the go forward type of energy in all respects. Very self-driven, self-made, self-can-do. Um, then we get into Taurus. Taurus is about accumulating. It's like this holding. If we've got go, go, go with Aries, we've got hold and stay, stay, stay. And like the gravity that stays with Taurus can actually accumulate more. So it's holding, accumulating, developing, and owning. It's got a really thick ownership quality to what it does with an energy. It's really saturated in it. Gemini's energy is all about switching things back and forth, multiplying them, flipping it, toggling it, moving, any kind of movement like a joystick, just all over the board, communicating, translating, things that are just all different forms of exploring and analyzing polarity, duality, anything that's got two or an on and an off and a back and a forth, and all of that is in the land of how Gemini is the operator. Cancer is an energy. It's got a little similarity to Taurus in the holding, but it's more about incubating. It's about softening, nurturing, feeding, comforting, soothing, all of those qualities. Whereas like Taurus is kind of just like growing. It's just like kind of like staying the course and holding and adding to Cancer. And those two signs, I mean, they're friends. They're in a sextile with by aspect, which is a whole nother level. But Cancer is feeding and protecting. It's like the membrane, the eggshell that's also shielding from harm, sensing what's out there, and providing that food and space to grow and comfort from the inside is how Cancer energy is operating. Leo, then I think immediately is like the eggshell hatches. And so it's about showing, expressing whatever was in there, whatever got incubated, hatches out and roars in Leo. And so it's about expressing, exposing, revealing, showing ourselves. It's about playing, it's about entertaining, performing, being seen. It's about managing, it's about having a central position that manages that which is around circulating. It's about creating from this inner sense of, again, playfulness. But it's all about this shining, radiating. Virgo's then going to operate in a way that takes whatever is and tweaks it. It improves it. I'm going to say like a transformer, but like constantly systemizing and adjusting to make things more efficient. It's organizing, it's sorting, it's facilitating, it's making the flow smoother, making the work easier. It's got a quality of serving oneself by serving others. So there's a serving component. Libra then is what takes us into others. So really, if we think about the first six is a set that is kind of a more internal sense of self, and then we get into things that are very outward related or other related, collective related in the next set, starting with Libra, which is then initiating that relationship, relating to others, how we can agree with others, how we relate to their experiences and interact, which leads to mediating and compromising, balancing, being diplomatic, making things smooth, beautiful, adding harmony. That's all what Libra does. It makes everything more beautiful and relatable. Scorpio is then going to take things and deepen them by investigating. When you investigate, you dig down into the bottom, penetrating to the core of things. That digging action is also in Scorpio. Controlling, really, taking control of things, transforming things, changing them drastically. It's got a An idea of like when to hold and when to strike to Scorpio, with the investing, all of this kind of merging and controlling qualities. Sagittarius, exploring. It's that explore, expand. It's going beyond. It's reaching out. It's publishing. If we thought about communicating with Gemini, publishing with Sagittarius is like taking the information further, widening the scope, a larger audience, foreign places. It's also about aiming, where we're trying to go, what is our truth is, what are we our aim for, what do we want to accomplish, where are we looking to go. And it's understanding, it's our big idea, it's how we see the big picture, how we synthesize information all together. Capricorn is all about attaining, making it happen, accomplishing the goal, graduating, which is where you are on one level and you move up a step, you get a promotion, you get preferred, you have more authority, which leads to authorizing. It's all about having the authority to say yes, no, do not, which is executive functioning, executing a law, being the the boss in a sense that decides. Learning decisioning, how to decide is more of a Libra thing, is a small tangent, but being in the position to actually decide and make the change and the tangible difference is more of a Capricorn, I would say. It's about disciplining. How do we get harder, tougher, more serious, heighten up toward making that progress or getting to be the master boss in some respect. Aquarius is all about how we uplift things. We're going to upgrade them. We're going to lift it up in a novel. We're going to push it forward into the future, progress it. It's experimenting with things, novel, innovative, inventive, new, weird, strange, unusual ideas. It's liberating things, freedom from the old, freedom into, new ways and progressive ways, and networking with large collectives. It's about, everybody coming online together equally. This very Camelot round table, equality, individuality, all of those types of qualities of experimental and humanitarian and such. And then Pisces has got a thing that's very just kind of melting and dissolving, very dreamy. It's about forgiving ourselves, forgiving others, showing mercy, volunteering, all things that are selfless, self-sacrificial. Martyrs in there too, but volunteering, meditating, that inner, private, reflective sanctuary. You're reflecting privately, you yourself and God's source, the universe, whatever, is modus operandi for Pisces. The next layer, just looking at the characteristic nature. So we've looked at their planets, we looked at how they operate. This is just a snapshot of the nature to what we'd say for that planet, with a slight masculine or feminine flavor profile, which we're kind of dialing in who they are and how they are. It's like a stereotypical archetype. Aries is super bold and assertive. It is the warrior charge forth. It is just super masculine. There's, as that first number one sign, that number one is phallic. There's not a lot about Aries as an archetype that's got a feminine quality. It is going to ring masculine across the board. Taurus is very anchored like a rock, self-contained, very just its own self. And I have put either on that. It has a very firm, it's firm, solid, which is a very firm feminine or masculine. There's that sense of like, I won't be budged, that could really come across as either. And I can see a case for each, depending on how other things are going to show Taurus, because I've seen Taurus show very voluptuous and sensual, and Aphrodite, like its ruler and all of its yin nature, suggest a lot of femininity. But I've also seen when we get cases where like Saturn and Mars or whatever is like masculine in Taurus or affecting it, it's very just kind of nitty gritty, you know, like I don't know, just of the earth and practical and mechanical in a masculine sense. So I see a little bit of both potential there. Which I wasn't kind of expecting. You would think it is just classically feminine all the way in Taurus, but I don't see that as much. Um, Gemini is next. Witty and talkative is just kind of a characteristic, maybe thing we would say for it as an archetype. This is not a person so much as just the character. And then it is really masculine, feminine. We are going to say either for Gemini every time. It is just the poster child for both, for binary, for this and that. Um, the fact that it's Hermes, we can give it a half a point more in the masculine since it's that and it's active, but it's really just the poster child for either. Then when we get to Cancer, which is nurturing and sensitive, it's just very feminine. It's a very feminine, home, quiet, private, sensitive, nurturing mother archetype is what Cancer stands for in every respect. That it would be hard to say like, hey, wait, no, it's masculine. Other than its cardinal nature that reminds us of the King of Cups, that kind of soft father. Which I believe I allude to again in another sense, but it's very feminine, just in those qualities of being nurturing and sensitive. Um, Going into Leo, being central with the idea of being, I'm special, I'm important, here I am, look at me, see me. Very masculine, want to be seen, want to be the one at the center of activity, that's causing activity, creating activity. So there's just an extreme masculine nature to the connotation and archetype of Leo, the king, the lion, all of that, the king of the, and all of the stuff. Um, Virgo is in its characteristic nature critical, finite to detail for improvement. So very critical and perfectionistic, wanted to be better. And it is ruled by Mercury, we can't forget, which gives it a mercurial boathy nature. It's a mutable sign. And so there's a lot of movement in this earth. It's very active femme. It is Cinderella. It is the maiden who's constantly the waitress, doing all the chores, adjusting, changing, adapting, improving, making things quicker, easier on themselves, faster, more money, more work, more all of whatever the adjustments are. So it's a very active feminine, which gives it a lot of hidden masculine quality. It's so changing, it's moving so much. Virgo has a little hidden masculine, and we'll see that later when we compare it to its opposite. Libra is known for being pleasant and agreeable as a characteristic nature. Just a quick snapshot, and so it's easy. And that is, it's so agreeable and open and receptive, and yes, through all of its collusion with Venus, that it is feminine or a much lighter masculine. You'd say, it's like the page, or it's very a youthful masculine. There's a feminine, but the feminine quality of Libra is very mental. It's very, can be maybe a little bit more um sterile, or just kind of quiet, like a quiet, like I don't I'm not exactly sure if I'm getting that right, but the flavor. But there's a feminine side to this masculine planet, which makes it a little lighter masculine. Scorpio's intense, and it's got a domineering quality. I'm going to dominate the situation, and the task is to dominate the lower self, and all of this, themes of control, self-control, controlling others until we learn to control ourselves, etc. All this intensity and probing and what do you call it, investigating, and all of these things that are give it a charge, the Mars that makes it keep pushing into deeper situations, deeper levels of confrontation, is a masculine drive. It's got a deep drive, which we can also see in a sense being a deep feminine. We could almost see it. Then this reminds me of Pluto's association here, that there's almost like such a passive, karmic, unconscious nighttime pull towards those unconscious desires that will burn them through and transform them. It's like a passive pull to issues that will force us and confront us, so that we have to take action and take a masculine charge with our motive at this point. So it's almost like being deeply pulled femininely toward situations to take very decisive, charged, masculine action on, is a way to see that there. And you can see that this paradox between Scorpio and Libra is kind of very flipped. It's like initiating, interactions with people, which is masculine. It's initiating, it's starting, it's saying hello, it's being flirtatious, it's being interactive, outgoing. And then it's being very feminine, allowing, receptive, agreeable to whatever is cooperative in the compromise to keep the other feeling harmonious. So there's a blending we start to see at that point. Then when we move from Scorpio to Sagittarius, some keywords would be jovial and open-minded. As its characteristic nature, it's, kind of, optimistic, live, let live, a little bit of, whatever. I want to explore the world, the buffet of life. It's got a soft masculine, and it's mutable in this either. And so what I see that it's like the masculine is movement, and it is fire, and it's wandering, it's traveling. It's not having, like, without other adjusting features, melding with the sign, like a strict, solid aim. It's more of an open-ended aim. Life's an open-ended adventure. And so we can change the direction and the aim and expand the scope. And these qualities that keep enlarging and ultimately moving in a growing quality that is masculine, of a very softer nature, so that it is also open to either, like, stop and smell the roses, or run off into the next game. And so there's an either sort of nature to the mutable position that is, in a sense, more masculine by virtue of fire and movement. Next in line is a pairing we can kind of see, Capricorn being ambitious, wanting to accomplish things, move forward, being very work oriented. What am I, what is my status? What is my reputation? How am I seen? What is my power? All of these kind of qualities. Having to contrast with a soft masculine, a hard feminine, really wanting to hold my position and advance it, and then hold that position and advance it. And so there's a slow crystallizing growth quality to Capricorn with the advancing that makes it masculine in a sense overall. It's about advancing, graduating, getting to the top of the mountain, being the boss. And when we pair it with its opposite sign, it's clearly got an overall something that's more masculine. But as I always talk about with Saturn and Capricorn considerations, there's that hidden feminine of how yin and slow and held it is, even though it's cardinal, which is masculine also. And there's just something through the association of Bina on the pillar of severity from the Kabbalistic tree of life that is also about the limits, the finite level of the manifest universe that everybody must contend with, the end of the line, death, material entropy, whatever, that has a hard quality that is the femininity of all that which holds. So it's by virtue of being earthy, feminine, but there is quite a lot that is masculine in Capricorn, especially in the way it presents classically and culturally. In Aquarius is a tag as radical and innovative, new, unusual, shocking, crazy, out of the box ideas, and liberating, liberal, all of these types of things. And it's so radical and energized and exciting that it's just super masculine by default of how energized and turned on and electric it is. That lightning is always going to register as a masculine sky god quality as it strikes that feminine oceanic sea. And with Aquarius, we see the lightning, just as below with Pisces, we see the sea. But Aquarius is that masculine. Although Aquarius is, by its masculine feminine flavor profile, queer. It is just weird. It is experimental. It is pushing the boundaries. It is rebelling against whatever the norm is. It is crossing every line. And so it is everything queer. But along that queer journey of experimentation of Aquarius is very little to be said about it that is yin or quiet or held. It can, and I mean, it has Saturn in its mix, so there is some of that holding, but it is inevitable that there will be change and activity and excitement again. So the yin period or the yin equality is very, you would say, sprinkled in the mix of a lot more masculine electricity and eccentricity in Aquarius. Following that, that last sign, Pisces, keywords might be flowy and artistic. Artistic's kind of a little too simplistic, but it's the realm of the imagination and the idea of go with the flow and let it be and surrender and loving everyone and all of that is super Pisces. It's got that passive masculine quality that is easiest to identify in like the Jesus Christ archetype, that Christ consciousness, atonement, of just, it's it's um it's a passive masculine in a form of activity that changes everything, but it does so in such a way that's like almost like a movie frame changing from one to another frame of like everything melting into one another. That as it's got this passive masculine to it, it's overarchingly feminine in that sense. It's why it's like the idea of how Kuan Yin, which is an Asian water deity related to compassion, was originally a masculine deity that then became a feminine deity. And so it's that idea of like this super compassionate masculine in some way that is also feminine. And so the overarching final thing with it is boundarylessness. It's definitely, I put fem closer out to the right because it's definitely got a more feminine, melty quality, the same way Aquarius is going to have a more active masculine quality. But these last two signs are very much about crossing the boundary and then melting the boundary all together. So just keep that in mind when anything is related to those. Oop, I think I skipped a little bit too far. Popping it back. Yeah. All right, we're ready to look at pairing. So I have the signs paired with their opposite real quick to consider. So we have Aries opposite Libra, Taurus opposite Scorpio, Gemini opposite Sagittarius, Cancer opposite Capricorn, Leo opposite Aquarius, and Virgo opposite Pisces. And I'm approximating what I'm going to consider to be between these two, who is the Dom and the sub. And I wish I had put now also like by the Dom a plus sign and the sub a minus sign because or something else. It's also Yang and Yin, and so this also bleeds into how we would consider the feminine and masculine of these signs. We're thinking about all the levels, their element, their modality, the planet that rules them, their nature, what they serve and stand for, and then here with how they are in an opposite relationship. All signs are married to their opposite. They are tied together on an axis. Just real quick, I would consider Aries and Libra to be the axis of our identity, self and others. Taurus and Scorpio would be an axis of our value, which is our values and shared or others and collective values. Gemini and Sagittarius is an axis of learning, which is all about kind of analysis and synthesis, the pieces and parts, and then the philosophy and meaning. Cancer and Capricorn is an axis of security, our inner home domestic security, our outer worldly societal security. Um, Leo and Aquarius is an axis of centrality. The self is the most important central figure, and the whole or the group is the most important central figure. And then Virgo and Pisces creates an axis of service where we have service and the way that we improve the way that we perform and provide the service in a, as the servant. And then the way that we are both in need of collective charity and selflessly serving anything and everything without any personal regard. So we have all of those axes. And since they're on an axis, there's like a battery with a positive and a negative end of the battery. There's one end of the spectrum that's more positive or negative in a general sense. And there's some exceptions we'll see. But as we consider that level, Aries to Libra, who's going to be the more active charged one? They're both cardinal. Definitely Aries. Aries is going to be the dominant. I feel like I'm like doing like Mortal Kombat show offs, but it's definitely going to be the more yang featured one. And then agreeable Libra, even though it's a masculine and cardinal sign, is going to be the more submissive one. It's going to be the more agreeable one. It's going to be the one that is more allowing. And so it's the more passive of the two, passive and active, masculine and feminine. So the Dom is the more masculine, active yang, and the sub is the more passive, yin, receptive. Between Scorpio and Taurus, I would say that Taurus is the sub in the same sense that Scorpio is the Dom. And in that particular lineup, the sub in the sense is the one that is just kind of is not taking the action, or is in a more receptive position, but is not performing or exerting as much action. Scorpio is the one that is going to be figuring out and calculating and making moves for changing things, manipulating this situation. That's not a good or bad thing. It's the movement, the probing. When we think about that, this whole dom and sub thing definitely bleeds into the sexual arena too, and I can definitely see Scorpio energy being the one that's more dominating in a sense of control themes, control games, and then Taurus is the one that is more self-contained. I'll just sit, I'll just allow, or I will do my own thing. It does not have to reach out into that world of other and pry the same way that Scorpio does. They're on a shared axis, but Taurus is very self-contained. Scorpio is very entangled with others and in its movements and choices and motives and desires related to others that would cast it more as the dom of that two pairing. When we look at Gemini and Sagittarius, they are both some poster children for both. They're both air and fire, which are masculine. They're both mutable, which is both. But between the two, because there's a few different reasons to this, I guess, but Sagittarius fire is a little bit more directing, and this arrow, this charge, has got a little bit more sway that is the agent of cause, whereas Gemini's energy will quickly adapt or flip to the other side, flip things over and play from the other position in whatever the entanglement is. So for that reason, Sagittarius slightly has a bit more of the the dom mask to it than perhaps Gemini. And Gemini being so androgynous, all of those qualities, that would be it. But they both can have a quality of being open to either. There are times where Gemini will take action and Sagittarius will stand down in those cases. It's really thinking about who, when they engage, who stands down. So, like, Aries is definitely going to have Libra standing down. Um, and Scorpio will definitely have Taurus standing down. Gemini and Sagittarius will both take turns standing down the other, although Sagittarius may be the dom in more of that. In the next setup, we have Cancer and Capricorn, where Cancer is going to be more of the submissive. It's that feminine energy through all those other respects on the moon of being receptive, responsive, incubating, the womb, all of that. Against the hard Saturnian Capricorn. So Capricorn dominates as far as being the boss, executive action, authority, authorizing. And so Capricorn has the more dominant masculine position considered against its more domesticated, feeling-based Cancerian partner. Leo, paired with Aquarius, is probably one of the most unique, and I feel like that is apropos for Aquarius for sure. But between those two, and I pair them up, I just think they are both dom, and it's very interesting. I don't see, I mean, Aquarius, I guess, is flexible in an experimental way. And maybe Leo likes attention enough to like any position. But they both like being in top and in charge and the active component. They both give each other a run for their money in this respect, where the other one doesn't really stand down. They both, Leo wants to be the center of attention and the lion that charges and makes things happen and manages, which is and it's fire. It's very dominant. The only thing feminine about it, it's very dominant by sun being its ruler too. The only thing feminine is it's fixed. That's one splash. And then over here, Aquarius is an electric, masculine, Uranus, all of this kind of charge energy that can have its quiet bits, but it's so radical and it's going to shake things up and it's going to lead to change, which is an extremely masculine dominating thing. So the way that polarity, you really have occasions where Aquarius will not rebel or not challenge, will be like-minded and go along and be agreeable. So that might be when Aquarius presents a little sub to them. And then over here with Leo, there might be times where instead of having to have the central role or the most intention, they are quiet or more passive in the sense of being more loved or more applauded or more liked or more found more agreeable and likable in some respect of being generous with their letting somebody else have some stage time. They're being generous by standing down and allowing. So they will have their moments where they can present some sub. They're both extremely dom, I think. And then the game switches and continues a little bit for the last round with Virgo and Pisces. They're both mutable too. Just like if you looked up here with Gemini and Sagittarius, those mutables have a both quality, so they do too. Although I think there is a stronger case for a dominance in Virgo and a submission in Pisces. And anybody that knows evolutionary astrology can look into a lot of deeper, interesting things with those two. But the dominant side of it really is in that like the S&M I did too of dom and sub with these two, because Virgo is the one that's critical with the whip. Not good enough, do it better, improve. So it's whipping things into shape or improvement or putting things into action that it makes it dominant. It's the one that has the standard of critique that it is putting action into place with. The flip sub quality, I think, here with Virgo to me is that all of that act of dominating the environment and dominating others, and the fact that they are part of the working environment is in service to something else. It's in service to self, but then it has to be in service to others also, which is why Virgo eventually goes into Libra. But there's a submissive, subservient quality to Virgo, in its bottom line being behind the reason why it's so dominant. Against it, it's over here in complementary fashion with Pisces. Pisces is just like lay back and allow and surrender and whatever. And so there's such an allowance with Pisces that makes it overarchingly submissive. It will allow, it will let things slide and move past the boundaries and all of that sense of just let it go, to the opposite but equal extreme of Virgo's like making sure it's right and tight. Um, and so they're in that subquality of allowing. By being so allowing, there is a little miraculous sparkle, Christ conscious quality in Pisces that flips into a dominant position, in that, like the saying goes, he who is last shall be first. Those who surrender and are selfless may often be granted those miracle moments and wish fulfillments and be in some kind of dominant position through their charity in some respect. And so there is a soul dominance to being so selfless in that subservience to Pisces. Pisces is probably a little bit more of the compassionate one, where Virgo is the one that's more critical, more hard, more dominatrix. It's the dominatrix. And then on that other side, the one that's just kind of like, what's the opposite? The martyr, the masochistic, the one that the self-harm, just use me for whatever. That's a spectrum of the selflessness in Pisces, at its kind of darkest, to flip to that darkest of Virgo. But so there's a bit of both, with Virgo being more dominant in comparison to its opposite. So from looking at each of these 6 signs paired with its opposite to get us our full 12, and thinking about those dominant energies having more of a traditionally masculine yang look, appearance, expression, this is another layer to consider when thinking about astrogender, or how the yin and yang aspects of any individual will express. So overall, looking at these layers, this is kind of like a final assessment, in a sense, of what I see classically if I think about these as characters, considering all the things we've already looked at, including what planet rules each sign, its element, its modality, how it works, some of its classic features, all of these different levels. At the bottom line, what would we say as far as, is this energy brand going to have a masculine, feminine, or other effect? Aries, this one should be no surprise at all. It is masculine in every sense. It is the idea of the fierce warrior. So whatever energies are Aries related, or in Aries, they're going to have that warrior quality. That's why, I could see time periods where if you were female born Aries and you were too confident and independent and sure, like it would have been tough, because that female expression in Aries is gonna be strong. It's gotta have that independent vivaciousness, and that's got that just masculine, fierce warrior quality. Taurus, overall, feminine in the sense that it is the material world. It's the material girl. There is a strong feminine expression to Taurus. Even in the sense that, when it's coming through in masculine ways, it's going to be slow. It's going to have an inertia of holding and steady, which is a feminine, esoteric kind of perspective of everything. The stillness, active and passive, go and no, on and off. It's that toggling. However, there is something about Taurus and its practical, grounded, rough, tough, squared nature that has a masculine gruffness too. There's a masculine practicality about it that can, it's not as glamorous or about the sensual experience as the feminine side of Taurus. It's more about the practical kind of side of the material world. Um, just something I've played with that one. I do see a little bit of both, although I feel like it would overarchingly be thought of as feminine. Um, Gemini, both in every regard. Again, it is the poster child for it, just like it looks like the Roman numeral two. It's about the two. Maybe a minor masculine leaning. It is ruled by Hermes. It is a lot of active energy, but it's all about both. It will do both. Um, Cancer, feminine mother archetype. It is totally mama. However, we will make a case because sometimes when you think about the fourth and the 10th house, and they can be who's the mother, who's the dad, and vice versa. I see a case where Cancer's fourth house, all of that, is a hidden grandpa masculine, which reminds me again of the King of Cups. But it's that soft, quiet family man, head of household, that is like the grandpa that's really emotionally nurturing. An emotionally nurturing masculine is also a part of Cancer. It's got some of that, just again, it's something that is masculine but nurturing, that paradox. And we'll see it flipped with Capricorn. Leo is the masculine in the sense of the king, the central sun. It is ruled by the sun. It's just got to be masculine. The one piece of Leo that we will give a nod to the feminine is through that magnanimity. That's a mouthful to say, but the generosity of Leo, we can think of the Queen of Wands and the sense of the wanting the people to adore us, the idea of our kingdom. If you think about having a kingdom, um, wanting to be adored, the Leo, even though it's masculine, would almost be like the queen married to the king. If we thought of Aries being the king of wands, the feminine side of Leo is about we want the applause and the people to love our specialness and our generosity. So that does give a little bit of that angle to it. Although overarchingly, Leo has a strong masculine flair to it. Then with Virgo, it is feminine as the maiden servant. It is the working girl. It is the Cinderella. It is um, you know, responsive, what needs to be done, and responding to that. And then it has a slight masculine sense with its criticism of changing and tweaking and adjusting in order to make things better, the things that it initiates to change things, whereas it is at the service of other with that regard. So it's got some of both. Libra, masculine as mental deciding. It is a cardinal sign, an air sign. It is about how we weigh and measure and decide and logically declare a conclusion, and negotiate situations, compromise, all of that. So there's a masculine sword, decisiveness. Whereas there is also with Libra a feminine angle that is softly inviting, it's agreeable, it's allowing, in quite a few ways that toggles both. Scorpio has got the masculine element as this occult shaman taking action, prying into the depths, researching, investigating, investing, and then sharing energies and resources to make things happen is very masculine. And then feminine, I said, is the mysterious witch. I mean, both of these characters, occult shaman, mysterious witch, it's two sides of the same thing, and it's about how we navigate that unseen world to and our motive for doing so to control things at a deeper level, at a more psychological level, relating to others. It's the way that we exchange things, when we hold and when we take action. It's like the when we hold our energy and poise, and when we strike. And so there is a little bit of both in that regard. With Sagittarius, masculine and most fiery senses. It takes action, it aims, it moves, it glows, it's outgoing. It's got all of those traditional masculine features overall. In fact, all the fire signs you would say have a classical masculine. All of the feminine, with the exception of Scorpio, have a feminine. Earth, a little bit more. Kind of both. It's got to allow for the masculine in all the earth. And then with the air, we've got to allow for the masculine and all of that. But then real quick, I got off for a second there. Sagittarius and that fiery masculinity is also over here open-minded and exploring, which doesn't necessarily give it a lot of feminine, but in its mutable sense and being open-minded, there is that kind of allowance for standing down or being passive or allowing, that Jupiterian quality to be more diffused than directed, that can be less masculine, we can say, than it is overall. Capricorn, it is the masculine father archetype overall. It's going to cast as that authority figure to play against the feminine mother archetype of Cancer. But the same way that Cancer had a hidden grandpa, Capricorn has a hidden grandma that makes it feminine in some way. It is the idea of the matriarch of the family that is tough, that is rigid, that holds things together. It's kind of that hard quality, or grandma that says no to things. It needs to be this way. The standards of integrity. It's just, when we think it's like a tougher, authoritative, feminine feel, the same way that Cancer might present as more of an emotionally nurturing, softer, masculine feel. So we could say that about Capricorn having a feminine sense that is tough. It's more father-like, just like this hidden grandpa would be like a Mr. Mom type energy. After that, with Aquarius, it is masculine mental electricity. It is all about that excitement, the jolting, the upgrade, those qualities that are enlivening, that shake things up, radically change, revolutionize. So it is electric, which is masculine because it's active, but it is truly, and it's the first one we say this is queer all around. Well, whatever that word queer means, it fits here for Aquarius and Uranus forever. Whether it's gay, trans, bionic, technological, experimental, poly, whatever is unusual or breaks the boundaries, that is really a part of what Aquarius is going to symbolize in every respect. And then as that extends to its final place in the sign of Pisces, we get the opposite of this masculine electricity with this feminine oceanic level of like a dream fantasy. It is a passive melt, like, it's almost like have one of those things on your face and stare back into virtual reality. But it's like it melts into like nothing and everything all at once. It's that kind of passivity. But as feminine as we'd say, it's like the pure feminine fantasy of like a universe that allows you to do whatever. It's truly behind the scenes, behind the curtain, asexual. It's not about sex, it doesn't have sex, it's without sex. Any way that you've sexualized it is actually part of your ego fantasy, because at its truest nature, that which is the highest octave of Pisces and Neptune is transcendental beyond sex. And so when we talk about gender fluid had to have been made for this sign of Pisces with Neptune, because it's all about flipping. I mean, like those sea creatures that can change their genitalia at different times in their life, gender fluidity and fluidity in general is a part of Pisces and its ruler Neptune. And then so I also put that word trans, going back and forth between the two, all the trans and queer, and it's kind of some subtle distinctions between that level in Aquarius and Pisces, but those both of them are where you break through and revolutionize the boundaries of all of these yin yang qualities that are toggling back and forth throughout our duality and polarized universe. And you go beyond them into something beyond. So that's why they get a little bit more uh, harder to define in those levels. Anyway, I think that is a wrap. That is a look at all of the gender qualities of our 12 signs related through various aspects of them. And I look forward to joining people for um, our little presentation together on the 30th, which will be both online. You can find the link there through my website, through my social medias. You can reach out and contact me, do whatever you want to include yourself. It will be available both to online audience at live and to those who are local and can make it in person. And we will talk about some of the combinations with particular people and how we see their masculine side and their feminine side through these different planetary combinations. So, all right. I hope you guys had fun and learned something. And I'm Nathaniel from Lead into Gold. Check me out however you want. Thanks.